so excited to be talking to Madeleine Reeves this week, who is the deputy editor of Cosmopolitan Magazine with over a decade of experience with Oprah Magazine, Teen Vogue, Coastal Living, and so much more. Thank you so much for coming on
to our
podcast.
Oh my God, I love it. I feel so cozy.
Oh my
I love
God. So fun story is that we need to first start off on like how we met.
It's such a meet cute. It's such a like rom-com meet cute, but for friends. Because I also feel like I can't remember a time in my life where we weren't friends. But like it's a branch of how we met.
So I was taking a trip to Las Vegas. Oh my God, not Las Vegas. I was going to LA, and there was this Barry's instructor who just moved from New York City, who I loved. And so I signed up for his class, and then there was other New Yorkers that he said, let's all get a group photo. So we take a photo, not knowing each other. We didn't even talk.
No, we didn't even talk. You literally took the photo and tagged us.
Yes, and then you somehow like messaged me, and you're like, oh, that was a great photo. Can you send it to me? Then I remember clicking on your profile, and then you were visiting, like we had a mutual friend, kind of loosely, and you were working at Cosmo, so you're kind of in the beauty world. And I was like, wait, we actually have to like be friends.
I was like, wait, yeah, you live in New York. It's also such a specific kind of person who would love this instructor at Barry's, because he's very intense, but also who would be like, oh, I'm on a trip to LA and I'm going to go way out of my way to go to a workout class in the middle of the day, and now we work out together all the time.
It's literally
we know that we have a lot in common, just like right off the bat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We
That
both
was 2
love to
years
work
ago.
out. We both are in like beauty consumer of some sorts. Like we love to work out. And so how many months did it take us to finally get like a date on the
It
book?
took so long. It took us like not a year, but like at least 6 months to actually like get coffee and hang out, because things were crazy. We were so busy.
But you know what's funny is that like when we met and then I found out you were an editor, I think when a brand founder is asking like an editor to go to dinner, it's like, all right, let me look at my schedule. Whereas like we are now like true friends that happen to like have similar industries. And so I feel like it took a while, and the first meeting was like, you were like, oh, I'm not drinking tonight. I'm like, oh, me neither. Talk about your business. Here's some baya. And then we're like, all right, let's talk about working out again. Yeah. And that's where I feel like we got to know each other way more. And now I've learned so much more about your career. But it's so funny to see like how a dynamic between two people can totally change like how available you are and like how easy it can meet. You know, like when I see like a work friend, it's like, okay, let's like schedule this for like a month from now. Yeah. But if it's a friend you're like who you work out with, you're like, oh, am I going to see you tomorrow? Yeah. And it's just funny to see like
you just become like very comfortable. I remember reading research years ago about making friends and how long it takes to like actually make a real friend. And I'm going to cite this wrong because I don't remember the study off the top of my head, but there's actual research to how many hangs you have with someone before you feel like close to each other. And so this advice that really resonated with me, because it's so hard to make friends as an adult, or at least like you have to be so intentional about it. Once you find someone you click with, you like really want to make it work. Yes. And so this research talked about how you kind of want to find, or rather the advice was to find ways to see each other regularly. So whether that's like you're signing up for a kickball league where you'll see each other every single week, or in our case, workout classes where even if we're seeing each other for 10 minutes after class, we're seeing each other like every day.
Yes,
so it's like, oh, you're a close friend. Because when you're in college, you just see people every day naturally. So yeah, it's been nice to kind of be able to craft that. And then I've just like forced my way into your whole friend group of wonderful people.
And the funny part is earlier in that year, I was like, all right, I'm going to start this new studio and my goal is to meet 3 new friends. So I was like, I have to make new friends. Like I have these like goals to like broaden my network, because I always like hang out with the same friends that I love. And then out of nowhere we meet in LA, and I was like, all right, this is my friend at the studio.
We're both very goal oriented, clearly. Yeah, we're both very goal oriented.
So going into more of your career though, like tell me more about what you do at Cosmo. Yeah. Where you started, because you are kind of like the Carrie Bradshaw of 2024.
You know, I always think about Jenna Rink, Big Time magazine editor from 13 going on 30. I feel like that was my whole like career inspiration. And I'm like, when do I get my big walk-in closet? Where I don't have that yet. I'm still waiting. But yeah, I wanted to work at Cosmo forever. I think when I was growing up and reading magazines, that was just like where I got all of my information about how to apply bronzer, how to talk to a boy, how to, deal with anything really, how to put an outfit together, how to, think about your career from very early stages. And so it was so important to me. And I went to Harvard for undergrad, which is, liberal arts. So I studied English, but not journalism. And while I was there, I did a couple of internships at Teen Vogue and the Oprah Magazine, which I realized as I talk about all this, I should probably start with what I actually do now. So to start with where I am now and then work backwards a bit. As deputy editor at Cosmo, I work across our print magazine and our website. We also have obviously all of our social channels. These days, being a magazine editor also means that you are thinking about strategy and the business, and I've been there for 5 years now. There is never a boring day. I work on everything from our cover stories and, editing those, sometimes writing those, to our sex and relationships content, working on kind of overall brand strategy. We have an incredible team. They're so much fun. So yeah, my days are, sometimes it's very glamorous. Sometimes it's like everything that you would think being a magazine editor is, going to fancy events or a photo shoot, or like going to breakfast with Sabrina Carpenter, or going to like some, beauty treatment. Sometimes it's that. A lot of days it is like me in sweatpants, hunched over my computer in like goblin mode, I call it, just like cranking out edits on a 4,000 word story. Like it's definitely a balance of all of those things.
Wait, so then before we get into your background, let's break down your day-to-day, because I see like you've written cover stories for Lindsay Lohan, Sabrina Carpenter, all these incredible celebrities. But I also know that you spend many weekends at the office too. So like, what is your like day-to-day like routine look like?
Yeah.
Like, I know where you start your day, which workout you do. So like, break it down to us. Like, what does like an average, like a day in the life of Madeleine Reeves, what does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I am such a morning person. Although my husband would laugh at me saying that because he's more of a morning person.
He wakes up at like 4 a.m., right? Like, what time do you wake up?
So I wake up at like 5:30. He's up before 5. So I'm like, also this is so embarrassing, but he is my alarm. Like when I go to bed the night before, I'm like, Alan, wake me up at 5:30 tomorrow. He's like, okay. Or he'll be like, what time are you waking up tomorrow? I'm like, okay. But yes, I am obsessive about getting my mornings right. And I'm such a nerd for research and life hacks and all that kind of stuff, and I feel like my morning routine has been cultivated over the years of all this information that I've taken in, and it sounds so it sounds a little wild and a little maybe obsessive to some people, but it really, I find that when I am doing these things, it's what sets me up for the best day. So on a day that I am like really on it, doing all the things on a work day, I wake up at 5:30. I'll get very detailed. So please. I sleep with a heating pad, like a plug-in heating pad next to my bed. And this is very important because I wake up at 5:30. I do not want to get out of bed at 5:30. I need 30 minutes of cozy bedtime. So I plug in my heating pad.
So cute. You're like, my husband's gone. Yes. So let me just use his time.
I have cozy bedtime, yes. My phone is far away. I plug in my heating pad and pull it in. And then at my bedside, I have a couple different journals, a couple of books, and that's where I start my morning routine. So I turn on the lights and I do 3 pages every morning of just like writing by hand in my journal. It's from the Artist's Way program, which is a 12-week program to unlock your creativity. You do morning pages every day, and I just stuck with that practice. It's just like a brain dump first thing. So kind of whatever comes to mind, you put it out on the page. And then I have the 5-minute journal that runs you through like 3 things you're grateful for, how to set yourself up well for a great day, all of this research-backed stuff. So I do first my morning pages, then that. And then a friend turned me on to this amazing book of Louise Hay, Affirmations. It's 365 affirmations where like each day is 1 page that you read. And so that just like spending the first 30 minutes of my day alone in bed with no other input. I'm not turning on my phone to see who's pinging me, who needs me. The days that I do that are completely different from the days that I don't. And I'm not perfect. I don't do it every day. I wake up sometimes in the middle of the night and I'm like, what's this email I need to, like there's always those days. But the days that I really do that, it makes such a difference.
Feels like you're in control of your morning.
Yes. It's like really your brain is in this kind of nebulous state between sleep and wake. And when you can very intentionally say, today's going to be a great day. When you can wake up every morning and tell yourself, today's going to be a great day for these reasons. I'm so grateful for my cozy bed. I'm so, just kind of that positive self-talk before anything else comes into your space when you're so fragile.
You're like setting up your mindset for the day.
And then you just like bounce out of bed. So then after half an hour, I'm like, okay, I'm ready for my coffee. I'm like ready to get out of bed. I'm all cozy and warm. I'm ready to get up. My brain's awake. So I get up and I make my coffee, which is, I do water and a couple of supplements. So this is, 5:30 to 6, I'm journaling. 6 a.m., I get up, I have the seed probiotic, which I love. I've taken that for years. And Fatty 15 is another supplement that I love.
Okay.
And my Claritin, very important. Allergy
I'm a
medication.
girl, but
I could mix it up. I don't know. Yeah. So I have that in my water. Maybe ice roll my face a little bit. And then I make an espresso. I make a double espresso in my Nespresso machine and blend in 1 scoop of this vanilla protein powder that I love. It's Be Well by Kelly vanilla protein powder.
That.
Okay, it's so good.
Oh,
I use a little frother in an
gosh.
espresso, and it's like a vanilla latte. I'll do like a little bit of pumpkin spice in it. It's so good.
Oh my! I need to do this because I have the biggest sweet tooth, and even this morning I really, really wanted a vanilla latte. And some days I'll put like a teaspoon of actual vanilla in my milk frother. I'm like, Brittany, stop! You don't need the sugar. It's fine. And I was sipping my latte, and it's not the same. So I need to do
this is so good.
That. Yeah. I do amara colostrum in my milk frother, so I feel like I need to do a scoop of that. Scoop of Be Well.
It's nice and thick and like vanilla-y. It's so good. I'll have like 1 or 2 of those because also just starting your day with that protein to level your blood sugar, all of that. So I'm like addicted to my little morning coffee. And this is so funny too, because you thought you knew how I start my day, but by the time I see you at 7, I'm like, I've had a whole time.
So we do, I usually do the 8:30, sometimes I'll do the 7 a.m., depending on the day, because I actually like to work before I go. And so the days that I do, I'm like running in at 7:01. Madeleine's like, hello.
Like stretching.
Oh, so nice to see you. And so like, here we are. Now I get why you're so peppy. And like, you have like a whole blowout. You have like this whole outfit. Meanwhile, yesterday, my pants were inside out.
Oh my God, that was the best.
Like I actually did wake up like hours ago and like my brain just was not on yet. So I think I need to adapt a few of these tidbits.
I have those moments. Oh my God, that was so great. You got so called out in class for your pants inside
I'm like,
out.
I really up together, I promise.
Then before I like get on the train to KK Sweat, because I do.
And wait, what's KK Sweat?
KK Sweat is the best class, which I have to say is worth like a 30-minute commute in the morning. Which that's like I get on the train to go there. It is bar, sculpt, all the things. I swear I've been working out for like 6 days a week for 13 years, and nothing has like changed my body the way that this has. It's crazy. It's so fun. It like my mood soars. The instructors, Kara and Natalie, are both amazing. Like Kara just has this like wild energy and positivity, and they both, the way that they like set the moves to music so specifically, it's so fun. It's the best way to start the day.
I agree. It's like such a feel good. It's like you get a warm hug every single morning.
The
you're
community,
there.
That's. I mean, we both like celebrated our birthdays.
I know. We're like, how much time do we spend at KK Sweat and see each other?
Yes.
Like, can we bring our partners there? Any friend that's in town, we bring there.
Yes. It's like
we
whole
basically, like we spend everything we can just to spend time with Kara and Kate and Abby.
Yes, it's so true. So on my way there, I'll like try to make use of my train time. And I text my sister, my younger sister, she's 4 years younger and lives in San Francisco. And a couple of years ago, we started doing this thing because I wanted to start a gratitude practice, but I really didn't know, like, just thought, if I just write a couple of things I'm grateful for. This was before I had my whole morning routine fully locked in. But I wanted to start a gratitude practice because it's the research behind the impact that can have on your life is just so, so compelling. So I texted my younger sister, which like such younger sister energy. If I want to do anything, she's like, I'm in, and she's the best. She's so sweet. And we've always been close, but now we're really close because I suggested that every morning we text each other 3 things we're grateful for. And so there's no expectation of, we don't have to keep the conversation going a ton after that. It's just, here's 3 things I'm grateful for. Here's 3 things you are. It usually turns into a conversation, obviously. But before that, we weren't as intertwined in the details of each other's everyday lives. And it's been so special and cool to kind of connect and get close in that new way. And also just every morning I'm like, okay, what am I going to tell Sophie that I'm grateful for today? We actually just got matching tattoos of
little,
I love the sparkle emoji is my like sign when things are manifesting, or it's a sign that like things are always coming together. So I wanted to get it, and then it's like 3 little stars. So she was like, okay, I'll get it to match with you too for our 3 morning gratitudes.
That's so sweet. And so do you feel like you have to pick one of the 3 every morning about her?
No, I really don't. It did start out that way.
Okay.
Occasionally, I love my sister. I am grateful for our relationship.
That's so sweet. Yeah. I think that's a special like way to start your day and be able to like change that mindset, because the more and more I read and really study about like what's the difference between having like a decent day versus that really great day, and you think about your routine, I truly believe the best mornings, the best days I have start with my morning routine. Like I have a little bit of a difference. Like I like to wake up, do projects where it's not about like people are waiting on me. I can just think like creatively and get it done. And then I feel like I'm on top of my day, love my working out, like get centered for the day, and I feel like I'm so much more at ease. Whereas if I wake up and I, do a evening workout and don't have my coffee, like I am like a raging bee. So like this is so important where you think about just mindset, and it feels like it's not just where you just happen to be a positive person. You're putting a lot of time and effort into this routine.
Yeah, it's so true. There's really like, things that you can have in your toolkit to turn your day around, to turn your attitude around at any point. But I remember during the pandemic when people started working from home and there were all these jokes about just rolling over and turning on your computer and starting work. I'm like, I couldn't be late first thing. I need that time, whether it's for, centering myself and reconnecting with loved ones, or like you said, for that specific kind of creative work that you can't do when everybody's all over you for things. It's a very different kind of work to do.
And so you do KK Sweat 7 to 8, so you're home by like 8:30.
Yes, I like rush on home, listening to my podcasts and audiobooks, and then rush home and make some breakfast and
what are we having on a normal basis?
I'm like so regimented in the morning. So I have this smoothie I love. It's again Be Well by Kelly is the protein powder brand, and I've followed Kelly LeVeque for many years and her like blood sugar balancing advice, where she really like simplifies the breakdown of it to incorporating protein, fat, carbs, and fiber. Protein, greens, not carbs. She really breaks it down to incorporating protein, fat, fiber, and greens into every meal. And so I've made a couple of smoothies throughout the years based on that. I love a morning smoothie. I do half a cup of frozen cauliflower rice and a scoop of like the chocolate protein powder, a couple spoonfuls of like a powdered peanut butter, chia seeds, almond milk, blend that up, and it's like a delicious peanut butter chocolate milkshake. I might throw in some blueberries and like eat it with a spoon.
Can you taste the cauliflower?
Not
are you substituting that for a banana?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. The banana is such a flavorful, like it's so overpowering, and it also, if it's not kind of balanced right with everything, gets like your blood sugar. And so cauliflower, just like, okay, I know I'm getting a vegetable in first thing in the morning. It's totally flavorless. It makes a great like consistency and texture. It tastes like ice cream to me. I love it. I'll do that. I have like a green tea matcha with ginger variation I do with the vanilla protein powder. So I get so excited about my smoothie.
Oh, you're going to share that recipe. The cauliflower rice, you have the chocolate protein powder. Do you put any spinach in it?
No. Okay, I would make the color
peanut butter, almond milk, blend it all up.
That's breakfast. That's breakfast. I'm usually like drinking that while I am doing my hair and makeup as quickly as possible. And then I walk like 20 minutes into my office, which is the best. It's so nice to have a walking commute just built into my day. I get to the office at 9:30, so by like 9:10, I'm out the door. I'm like, quickie little turnaround.
And are you working on your walk, or is it still like me time?
That's a great question. I used to always listen to podcasts on my walk, or sometimes I would listen to like throwback songs to connect with my like middle school self that wanted this job so badly.
I remember why I wanted this job.
Yes, to be listening to like Hilary Duff or whatever. So I'm doing like nerdy stuff on my walk. It's either that, or I love the Superhuman app for like meditations and affirmations. They have great walking meditations to like embody your best energy. I love that app. But recently, I've also been using it as voice note time. I've reconnected with one of my best friends from high school. We had kind of fallen out of touch, just living different places for a few years. And then we reconnected, and we've been voice noting each other back and forth every day. And then I voice note a lot of my other long distance friends. And so now instead of just listening to podcasts on my commute to and from work, I'm catching up on all my voice notes and then voice noting everybody back.
I love that, because I remember getting to from you. I'm like, oh, this is so nice to like be able to like understand versus like I can hardly text, like especially with these nails. And I'm like, all right, let's try to form a sentence today and respond back.
Yeah.
But to be able to get your voice note and me be able to be like, all right, this is actually what I meant, and what do you think about XYZ? Is a really fun way to connect with people and also express gratitude to people that you're maybe not conversing or texting like on a day-to-day basis.
It really is. It's such a there's such an intimacy to it, and also it's for long distance friends. I find it's the best way to kind of reconnect when you're not able to see each other in person all the time, because it kind of mimics that in person or on the phone interaction, but without having to have the time scheduled in, which can then feel like a burden. And this is just very back and forth, but we'll be talking about something serious, and then it's like, oh my god, I just saw this funny thing, or I'm picking up my coffee, and you get to know these like intimate details of their everyday lives. So that's been a very special day.
Also hear your warmth and happiness out of speaking versus, I think you can't really understand tone as well if it's just a text.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot like, how are you? Hope you have a great day. And it just feels a little harder to like break into like the nitty-gritty details, where if you're walking by something and being able to verbalize a conversation or just your thoughts, it brings a lot more color to the conversation.
Totally. It's been so fun and special. So then by the time I get into the office, I'm like, wow, I had a whole day.
I'm ready for a nap.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, ooh, what do we do now? So yeah, get into the office, and then I'm in the office Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay.
Those days are pretty packed full with meetings. I might have a call with a writer to prep them for a cover interview. That's what I did today, where I really run through, okay, what do we want to ask this person about? What's our strategy for asking these questions? So it's kind of a mix of those kinds of meetings, or planning meetings of who do we want to feature in this next issue, as well as like check-ins on ongoing projects, a lot of project management kind of stuff, a lot of just running around, and then you're like, how is it 4 o'clock? The days go by fast. I do try to like break for lunch and, step away, even if it's for 20, 30 minutes, whatever. Try not to eat at my desk. I haven't cracked the code on the perfect desk lunch yet. I'm figuring that out.
Okay,
yeah.
I saw that you were doing like hummus with like, with
like hard-boiled eggs, some tuna, I've been making like adult Lunchables. That's like little snack plates that I can just kind of pick out of different things. But I'm always, I don't know if I've cracked it yet.
And so in terms of like writing, so as the deputy editor, it seems like you have a very large team that you're also responsible for managing and supporting. So what percentage is writing versus like managing and supporting the rest of your team?
It's funny, these days I only really write if I make an effort to, or it's something I'm super passionate about and I get to kind of take it on as a passion project. I think the more that you move up in this industry, unless you make a point of being like, I am a writer, I will just write, you kind of get into more of these larger strategy conversations and managerial conversations, editing, training the team, all of that. So I don't write as much as I would like to, but at least I have those 3 pages of journaling in the morning.
And so in terms of like, just to take a side step, but so in terms of being able to manage someone, right? Like you went to school and you had your English major and now you're in journalism. How did you learn to step away from writing and learn how to manage a team and employees and team, so that's really interesting that you went to school with you had an English major and you were an editor for so many years. What was that transition like between writing for most of your days to now managing people?
Yeah, it's
like how did you like
too.
Strengthen that
that muscle? Yeah, that's a great question. It's not just managing in the ways that or I would say it's interesting being an editor, because editing and managing have a lot in common, in that you get a draft in from somebody and your job is to help them make that better. And so I haven't really put it together in this way before, but maybe there is something about editing and managing that goes hand in hand. And the way that I learned how to edit, which I always like give this advice to people, is that you should use whatever information is available to you, and to the point of being nosy. So when I had my first job out of school, half of my job was copy editing and fact checking in addition to writing. And we'd have these folders where by the time that the copy was approved, I was just doing the fact checking, but it was still very like paper trail, and the editor-in-chief had written her notes in, blue pen. And so I would go back through and read her notes on every version of a draft to kind of do the behind the scenes research and work of, okay, how do you give edits to somebody? So that's where I think like reading other people's edits, and then obviously as a writer, I was receiving edits, but kind of taking all of that and tapping it back into your brain of like, how can I then apply this was a big thing. Being a manager, I don't know, the world is such a hard place these past few years, managing through things like lockdown and uncertain times. And I think we're just all in it together. And I find that because our team is so amazing, we're all really motivated by working towards a common goal of serving our reader. And I find that bringing that service, that like goal-oriented service to the forefront is helpful to align us all there.
So interesting. And so most of the time, so like you are back-to-back meetings, 9:30 till what time do you leave?
5:30 or 6, sometimes a little bit later. It does depend. So 5:30 or probably 6:30 if I'm just heading straight home. Nights that I head home, which I try to keep Monday nights as like, I don't do anything. I try to keep Monday nights sacred. No drinking, no late night events, nothing, like head home. My husband has usually cooked dinner by the time that I get home because he works from home.
Nice.
So I walk into some lovely home-cooked meal. He's like taking the dog out, and I can just kind of crash and eat and sink into the couch. But then at least a couple of nights a week, there will usually be work events of some kind or another, which I love. I used to be very introverted, and I've become very extroverted, I think in part because in New York City, I'm around so many people who give me energy. And so I get excited to like talk to people and strategize and meet cool people. So I've become much more extroverted than I used to be.
And so I think that's a really great point they bring up, because there's a lot of people who like, whether you're in a new industry and you're trying to build your network, or you're introverted, like what was your toolkit like in terms of like feeling confident and feeling comfortable going to all these events? Because yes, they're really fun, but I can also imagine it's part of the job as an editor.
Totally. I have so many thoughts about going to events, because especially when I wasn't yet in this world, before I moved to New York, I lived in Birmingham, Alabama, working at a couple magazines there, which was amazing. But I remember following these editors, 7-8 years ago, following these editors on Instagram and seeing the events they were going to. And I was like, if only that could be me. Like these things look so cool. I can't wait to go to these. And then I moved to New York.
And it was you.
And slowly I started going to these events. And like, I would say with some exceptions, the big secret is that most things aren't as fun as they look on Instagram. You get to a lot of industry events across any industry, I think. And people are, maybe they're nervous, maybe they're shy, maybe they've had a long day. People want to take the right picture. They want to show that they were at the event, or like that it's cool that they got invited. But then people are in corners having these conversations of like, well, did you get invited to this one? And it's like, oh my God, is this middle school? Like, what are we doing?
Wait, what are we doing?
Yes.
This event that we're at.
Yeah, and oftentimes too, I would walk into these rooms where I didn't know anybody and I was by myself, and it felt like everybody else knew each other, maybe because they had been in the industry for longer, they had gone on trips together through work things, whatever it may be, had gone to other events together. And so I somehow got very good at going to events by myself, but it did not happen overnight and it did not happen by accident. I was very intentional in building this toolkit of ways to make myself enjoy events, make the most of them, and actually make them fun and energizing. And also I'm much pickier about what I go to now.
That's the key of getting older and like growing in your profession. Like pre-pandemic, I went to about like 20 events a week. And
oh my God!
How the hell? Like I was like back to back. And then it's like one, you're not like organically enjoying like what could come out of these because you're just bopping around. And two, I've learned like you have to like learn to say no to things in order for more opportunities to arise. And I agree with you. It's like you kind of want to be invited to everything, and I have like the worst FOMO. Like, this is so bad. So I always want to say yes. And I was like, all right, I love that you said you keep your Mondays sacred as you know, and I think as you just grow older, I used to be like, why aren't the top planners, in the wedding industry at all these events? And it's like, well, they learned how to say no and show up, and then when they show up, you're like, wow, did you see so-and-so's here? And your presence is even more like exciting for when you do show up to those events.
Yeah, that's so true. I think too, as I started to get more comfortable, like one of the things that really helped me become more comfortable walking into those places was the framing of it mentally, of thinking of each one as practice. I think before that I put so much, an event is practice. It's practice at socializing better. Before that I put so much pressure on, I have to go to this and meet all the people and do all the things, and it's like, no, each one is practice. Yes. There's not like and you can kind of show up as yourself, and maybe you'll feel good, maybe you won't, but you get like a little bit better. And then I think the other thing, I have this at the tip of my tongue. What was I going to say? It is practice. Yes. Another thing that really helped me going into events was having just a line in my head that I was ready to say, which doesn't need to be overly complicated to introduce yourselves to people. I will literally just walk up to people and say, hi, I'm Madeleine. How are you? And like having that at the ready. Yeah, because everybody actually is kind of waiting around to meet people, to have somebody else introduce themselves. It's just hard to be the first one to do that. Yes. But I find that once I am, people are so receptive to it. And if they're not, then I don't want to be friends with them anyway. If they're rude, then whatever. Yeah.
Those are great. And I personally find going to events, even now, being in my 30s, I still get so nervous when I don't know anyone. Yeah. Or it might be like an industry that I'm like, I was invited to, but it's not like I know anyone really in the industry that they might know who are attending. But something that I also love is standing near the food or in the line for the bar, or honestly even going to the bathroom. Like whenever there's a line or a crowd, like pretending you're there for a purpose, whether that's getting a drink or getting some bites, it allows you to be able to be like, oh, doesn't that cheese looks so good. Like, what are you getting today? And it just gives you like that organic time without feeling silly. Yeah. Like you're saying, it's like, hey, I'm Brittany. Like,
it's a shared experience. It's an activity. I love that. A shared
experience. And I think it's a very relatable one. It's like, who doesn't like food? Yeah. And who doesn't even like to, get a drink, whether it's water, wine, whatever.
I think too, like wearing, my husband often says that women have an advantage here in that we can wear some like wild stuff, and it's so often I'll wear a statement earring or jacket or something that somebody will compliment, and then that starts the conversation, or I'll compliment something somebody else is wearing, and that starts the conversation.
Yes, and I think when you lift people up, like people love feeling flattered and receive it. I love feeling a compliment, and it warms people up versus being like, oh, why does she want to talk to me? Yeah. But going into like outfits, so you are an editor, you're going to these really cool events, but how do you find that balance between like wearing something very out there and maybe I would feel maybe a little insecure if I don't know like the dress code of this event, who's going, and showing up in this crazy outfit and everyone's in these like business suits. Yeah. And so like, is that how you hone in your confidence, or like how are you thinking about like showing up for yourself in these moments of maybe feeling a little insecure or nervous?
That's such a good question, and it reminds me of a tip that I haven't thought of in so long. I swear I've been like filing away tips my whole life, because I think that I've read this in like the Miss Manners column in the newspaper when I was a kid, and I would like get the style section out. But this is such a good tip, which is that if you show up somewhere very overdressed or very underdressed, to just embrace it and not point it out, not say, oh no, I didn't realize this was a fancy event. If you're overdressed, not to, because it just like nobody else is thinking about you. Nobody's thinking about you,
They're thinking about themselves.
Yes, they're thinking about themselves. And so you know, if you show up and like, I'm sure also that anything that you wear anywhere is like a perfect level of appropriate. You're never underdressed unless you're in your backwards pants.
Overdress underdress.
Yeah.
So I'm like, when in doubt, I'm like, let me just wear something that I feel so good in.
Yeah.
Versus like, ooh, like let me like cover up because I feel so underdressed. But
I think that's a great way to approach it, of just like whatever you show up in, embracing that, acting like it's the perfect thing, and then everybody else will also. And if people start saying like, oh my God, you're so dressed up, like, yeah, I love this. You know,
it's like Mean Girls. And they cut the holes in her shirt. Yeah. And then she just flaunted it. And the next day, everyone wore shirts like that.
I know, literally, exactly. Just embracing it. Everybody will be like, oh, I should have dressed up more.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes. All right, so we start a trend. Next time, we'll do something crazy.
Yeah, just wear anything. I know, I think, and also finding those things that you know you always feel comfortable in. I think as I've gotten a little bit older, I've kind of honed in on, okay, I always feel amazing. Like, I love showing off my waist. I love a little crop top moment. I've kind of built my wardrobe around the things that I know I love. Like, I love a pair of slacks and like a little top, or like, I, you know, just like variations of the same thing that you know you'll feel amazing in.
So do you have like a uniform?
I feel like I do. I'm not wearing anything with my uniform now, but I gravitate a lot to black and white because I feel like it just always goes well together. Depending on the season, I'm probably in a black or white, like long silk maxi skirt and I love a big chunky heel no matter what. I love like a bar. I love a platform. Yes, I hope platforms are in forever because I'll be wearing them forever. I'm 5'2", but I identify as like 6 feet tall. So I'm like, I need a really big platform. And then like a little top with a little like, maybe a little bit of a crop top. I can kind of get away with it at Cosmo, I tell myself.
Yeah,
like,
a little sexy. I love that.
A little something sexy, a little like glam touch sometimes, a little something sparkly maybe. But yeah, either like slacks or a long skirt and just like a cute little fun top.
It seems like it's a uniform for like guaranteed confidence.
Yes, exactly. Like something that you know you'll feel good in. You're not worried about wardrobe malfunctions or like your skirt riding up or whatever. Definitely.
I love that. I think height, like when I don't wear heels, like I'm also 5'2". Yeah. And that's something where I'm like, ooh, like, hi.
I feel so weird.
So nice to see you. And be like, wow, I didn't realize you were so short. I'm like, well, I'm
tall energy.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm tall energy. So like a little heel for like a little lipstick, whatever it might be. I think we all have those hacks where it doesn't take a lot, but when you know what you feel good in, it's like the more you can like mirror that and mimic it for events where maybe you are a little nervous or maybe you just don't have a lot of time to prepare for. Yeah. You go back to the basics and you feel way more confident than trying something totally outrageous that you didn't really even have a chance to try on.
Yeah, another thing that I am really leaning into and putting out there, and I'm gonna lean into even more, is outfit repeating. I will outfit repeat till the day that I die because I want to invest in good pieces that make me feel amazing and then wear the heck out of them for decades. You know, I'm like, it's good for the planet. Like, why do we feel like we need to have a new outfit for every event, whatever? I want to have like a few great things that I feel amazing in and have invested in and have like tailored to fit me perfectly and take great care of. And then wear those, you know, once a week.
Yeah. And then you'll get more. I've noticed that when you invest in pieces that you feel super confident in, and they are different, but like still authentically you, you get so many compliments. You get so many compliments every time you wear it. So it's like if you just wear that all the time, you're gonna get all these compliments and you're gonna feel great. Exactly. Whereas like if you're like, I need to like maybe not splurge because I need an abundance of outfits, you're always going to feel fine versus it being perfectly tailored to you where you can just beam and like feel your best self. I am doing the same thing right now.
Yeah, good. We'll support each other. I did notice your office here is so close to the sample sales.
Yes,
I was like, oh God, this is going to be so bad for me.
Last weekend, my fiance, Corey and I was like, hey, I just need to like stop somewhere really quickly. And he's like, where are you going? I was like, oh, a sample sale. And he's like, oh, I need to go across the street to the other sample sale. So we went shopping together. Huge weekend.
Amazing. Yeah.
So going into like, you went to Harvard, which is an Ivy League, and you seem like then you ended up at Cosmo. And one, it feels like, of course, like you have this dream career. But were there times where like, do you feel like you lean on your identity from where you went to school to like provide your inner confidence? Or what like do you ever feel insecure at your job even though you've been like well educated and you have this fantastic dream job for so many? Like do you ever feel like you question yourself?
Oh, absolutely. Where to dive in? So many things. I think in terms of getting from Harvard to Cosmo, I think that so many of us believe this fallacy that progress will be linear. It's natural to think that you'll go step, 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 and your progress will just go up, and that's how it'll work, just like along a nice little graph. And that is so far from the truth. And actually, if you zoom in on that little like progress graph, there's all these little zigzags along the way. And sometimes you have to like bounce back a little bit to bounce up or go somewhere else. And maybe when you pull way back, it'll go that way. You still get there.
How you get there can be a little bit
just like all over the place. Yeah, and like full of surprises. And I really do believe that the part of the reason for that is because, I think sometimes we want things to happen exactly the way we want them to happen, but actually the way that they can happen is so much like more beautiful and incredible and special than we could even comprehend. And so there's such magic in that, and in releasing yourself to the journey and letting yourself believe that like, rejection is redirection, and whatever happens is getting you to the right place in the right time exactly. And so my path from graduating to moving to New York was a bit unusual in that I spent 5 years in Birmingham, Alabama in between, which was nowhere on my vision board. I will tell you that much. I had never been there before. I started dating my husband in college. He was from there. I was like, he graduated and moved back there, but I was like, I'm moving to New York, be big time fancy magazine editor. And I loved interning here, but it was so expensive. I knew that all these coffees I took with editors, the advice was always, you have to move here without a job. Like,
really?
They were like, that was the advice throughout the industry. It was also a different time.
They all said that?
They all said that. Move here without a job, because once you get hired, they'll want you to start right away. And they don't wait for you to graduate. That's not a thing that happens. You would never get hired and they wait for you to graduate.
So you just have to pay thousands of dollars.
Like God knows how, like let alone my student loan. So I'm like, how, like all my friends are going to be working in finance or consulting. I can't live with them. Like what, like suddenly the New York math isn't mathing, and this is my senior year.
Even
like,
girl math.
I can't even grow my math my way out of that. No, there was no way. And I know myself. I know that I like nice things, and I really wanted to be able to build some financial stability. And so Birmingham was on my mind because Alan was living down there, and come to find out, because the universe works in mysterious ways, and sometimes it feels like things are just laid out in front of you on a silver platter when you're open to it. And this was one of those moments. There are magazines that are national magazines based in Birmingham, Alabama. So it's kind of crazy. The same town. And this is what's also funny is that I found this out because I was obviously obsessively researching everything. I haven't told this story before. I found this out my junior year, his senior year, when we were just like hooking up and like we were like not dating. We're like, well, yeah. So I like see this and I tell our mutual friends like, oh my God, there's actually magazines in Birmingham. We've been hooking up for like 2 months. And they say,
hey, now you're married.
But yeah. Oh, well, here's the thing. And this is why I really do believe in relationships and jobs, whatever. You can't mess it up, because what could freak somebody out is the right thing for somebody else. So I tell our mutual friends this. I'm like, wow, there's these jobs in Birmingham. They, little sneaks, go and tell him, like, hey, you should be careful, because Madeleine's like thinking about moving to Birmingham. They did. I know. I don't even know if they know that I know that. Like,
oh my God.
So he says, like, to them, he's like, oh my God, that's so crazy. But he told me later he loved that. He was so flattered by it, he loved it. And so I'm just like, the right person. Anyway, that's a pivot to a relationship story.
I love that so much. Yeah. Wow.
He was secretly, he's like, I'm in.
He's like, I feel like he's like, all right.
It only took us like another year to actually, get
Start
together. Yeah.
And all that fun stuff. Wow. Yeah. And so you worked where for?
So then I was after my summer at O, I was very open to applying to jobs. He was down there, we were fully together at that point. I go visit, we drive around the campus, and I say campus because it was like in the woods, there were waterfalls, the Southern Living offices, like just beautiful. And then they were hiring for a job at Coastal Living, which is part of this office down there, and they had the job listed for 6 months, and it called for 5 years of experience, which I obviously didn't have because I was in college. Right. But I was like, okay, they've been hiring for this job for 6 months. Maybe they can't find somebody because the industry is so competitive in New York, but they're like, the hiring was just different there. And so I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? Let me apply. Let me do all the things that I know to like get my resume to the top of the pile of sending a follow-up email, figuring out who the hiring manager is, doing some detective work. And they flew me down for an interview like a week later.
Wow.
Gave me an edit test, which is you have to like write stories, you know, come up with story ideas, all of this. And I got the job in April of my senior year, and they waited for me to graduate, which is unheard of.
Exactly. They said that what happened.
Yeah.
And so do you feel like submitting your resume, knowing that they were looking for someone with 5 years of experience and you had 0, do you feel like that was coming from a place of confidence or just being naive?
I think I read so much. I read so much of the like work career advice probably in magazines growing up that were like, actually, you know, here's what I would say. A mantra that I've come to embody and that I think I was already working with then but didn't know as clearly is never be the one to say no to yourself.
Ooh.
Sure, somebody else can say no to you, the world can say no to you, but never be the one to say, no, I can't do this, because you never know, you know?
I love that mantra. That's why I'm gonna, like, I need to write that down and put it in my
love
phone.
a mantra. I've got many, I love a mantra.
I do really contribute being naive as, like, such a blessing in my journey, but I agree with you. It's like, if you have that self-worth, not even confidence to be like, someone else can say no, and I can respect that.
Yeah.
But if I say no to myself, I'm not giving anyone else a chance to tell me no. Because I've done it on my behalf.
And sometimes those big swings are nice because if they do say no, then you're like, oh, well, of course not. You know? Like,
I have 0 years of experience. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so that's where you end up being 5 years. And then how did you get this Cosmo job?
So I joke that I moved to New York to work at Cosmo. I just didn't have a job there yet. So we had been in Birmingham for a while. I had moved over to Country Living Magazine, which is part of my current company. Hearst now has an office in Birmingham as well. We loved Birmingham. We bought an apartment there in the heart of downtown. New restaurants were opening constantly. I love Birmingham. Still some of the best food, great times, great vibes. I always recommend when people haven't been there. Like, I have a list of restaurants. I loved it. And we made some great friends and we were really happy. But my sister was at NYU. We would come up to visit her here. My family's still in the Northeast. I really felt this pull of like, okay, I still want that big Cosmo job. I still want to work in women's magazines. Again, I was watching these editors on Instagram living my dream life, and I kind of, Alan and I both are very happy wherever we are. We're happy people. We're going to come to like a happy place. I would say we are so much happier now in New York. And we kind of were at this point in life where we're like, okay, we could see 2 paths. We could stay here, maybe move to the suburbs, you know, make our lives here. Or we can take this huge risk that's really scary and move to New York. And a job opened up at Cosmo that I applied for. Dream job, actually, with my current title, but this was in fall of 2017. It was a long time ago.
Wow.
It was a long time ago. I applied for this job. It's a 6-month interview and application process because there was a company acquisition, all these things. We end up kind of getting excited about moving to New York, and then I didn't get the job. And it was like devastating news, obviously, because I was ready to move for this job. It was my dream job. That same day, Alan applied for a job on LinkedIn, which he ended up getting like a month later. So then we're like, okay, my whole industry's there. I'll find a job quickly. So we did it. We picked up and moved, and
So you moved without having a job?
I moved without a job, yeah, which I ended up doing some full-time freelance work at Good Housekeeping, so I was back in the tower. I essentially, it turned out to be a very good thing that I didn't get that job when I first applied for it for a number of reasons. I mean, among them, the fact that Alan and I weren't both starting really hard jobs at the same time was helpful, because my job was a little bit easier when I did move up here and was in this part-time role. Also, there was a big kind of shift happening at work where by the time that I did come in, which I'll explain how I got there, the timing was just perfect. Like, I couldn't have scripted, couldn't have thought up better timing. It all worked out the way it was supposed to. They had a new editor-in-chief start, and I just started emailing her constantly begging for a job.
I love that.
Because I just really believed that I could bring them a lot. And You know, I think that if I didn't have this certain level of certainty or maybe delusion that a little delulu.
You're a little delulu.
Yeah, I'm for sure a little delulu. It's always worked for me. Yeah, I'm like, I love living in Delulu world.
Yeah. Like, I love this little bubble.
Yes.
It's a Delulu bubble.
I live in a happy little world.
Yes.
I would rather get to live in that happy little delusional world and occasionally be disappointed than go through life thinking that things are terrible and bad.
I agree, because I do think that like you have to feel like you deserve an opportunity or deserve a role in order to really take it and run with it, because if you don't believe you deserve it, even if you get it, you're always going to start questioning yourself, and I think that does lead to self-sabotaging to a point where maybe you won't have that role anymore.
And I think too, something that I've now been able to put my finger on better in the past couple of years as I've really done this work to understand, this will get so deep and so woo-woo, but this work to understand not just what is the next step in my career, but like what is my life's purpose, you know, to ask the really big questions. What is my purpose on this earth? And I think that when I was younger, even when I was first applying for this Cosmo job, I wanted it because I wanted it, because like I want to go do cool things, and I think that job, like, all from a place of ego, you know. And I think what I've now come to understand is that I can be and am motivated not by ego, but by what I can give back or do for other people. And so for me, somewhere like Cosmo, I'm like, our stories can reach so many millions of people, and I believe in my unique skill set that helps us with those things. But it's not about like me wanting to have this fun job. It's about how can I show up and like make the world a better place in ways big and small, you know?
And I think in the founder world, we always say, like, when you're building a company, you have to understand your why.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be really hard days that are going to challenge if you can actually move forward. And that why isn't super deep in your soul, you're going to want to give up. And it seems like that's with you. It's not just this flashy, glamorous Sex in the City type role like Carrie has. It is, you go deeper than that. And because of that, I could only imagine that's helped you get so far in your company.
Yeah, and come to, you know, to bring it back to management too. I think sharing that perspective with my team has been helpful, because it's just so much easier to put yourself out there when you take the ego out of it. It becomes like, okay, if I have something to say, then who am I to let my fear of embarrassment or anything kind of get, you know, potentially in the way of that. But I'm curious to ask you, like, what is your deep why?
So my why, even like, I feel like with beauty, it can be very surface level, but my why has always been empowering women to look and feel their most beautiful self. And that started even before I started a beauty company. I was like, how can I really make women feel? Because when you can see someone look in, even if you look in the mirror and you're like, wow, I love what I see, you're gonna bring that energy and that positivity wherever you go in life, right? And I think that's such a beautiful, beautiful mindset and power to have. So even with Beautini, it was like, let's do hair and makeup, because I can truly and physically help transform you where you now feel and look beautiful, but it's this outer to inner approach. And now with Bea, it's like, well, we're now addressing when you maybe aren't feeling so confident. Maybe you stink a little bit and they're like doing an interview and you're nervous, or you're, you know, going on a date or you're traveling and it's like, ooh, I wish I could just feel a little bit X. And just by having a simple product, you now can be like, I feel so excited for this interview. Oh, I can't wait for my date because I'm not in my head. Yeah, and I think that like empowering, yes, can be a very broad term, but that's always been my mission. And it's kind of neat to like look back and be like, wait, I built not one but two businesses that have that same like why. And that's like my mission. But the why truly is to like one day give back to my parents. Like I could cry about it, but like they've like literally done so much that people have no idea about to help me not only support when I gave up this very stable job after college, but really have been there through thick and thin as I've grown my business, gone through a pandemic, started a second business, and like they've never spent $1 on themselves. So like my day, like when I wake up, I'm like, I'm gonna buy them a house, a vacation house. I'm gonna like take care of them, and not that they need it, but like, yeah, because they, like my mom, you know, feels guilty spending $1 on herself. So like they're truly like that why. So it's that mission plus like my dream of that why that helps me get through the tough days and keeps me excited on the days that aren't going well.
That's so beautiful. And I think too, even doing this series and talking about confidence and wanting to, when we were just chatting before, wanting to talk about, okay, let's make sure we bring really like tangible tips that people can use. I think it all ladders up to that same goal of empowering women with the tools that they need to go about being their best selves in the world and their most self-actualized, whether it's because they know that they look amazing or maybe they have a new life hack or a new mindset hack or whatever. And that's literally, this is like why we're friends. I feel like we're so annoying.
But I agree with you. And it's like, you can't like, for you, it might be an outfit before going to that. For me, it might be my makeup. Like if my makeup is looking snatched, like I'm gonna dominate that room, right? And same with you. It's you're like, I want to attract and have these conversations because now I'm gonna be able to connect with people just a little bit easier, right? It's not these big steps or these big things that you have to do to prepare to feel comfortable to have a good night. It's these little things that we do that help us set ourselves up for success. And even with you, like taking that 30 minutes in your morning to be able to practice gratitude and reflect on your day and your life and like ease into even having your vanilla protein powder and your espresso and like thinking about what your body needs. Like you're really setting yourself up for success, but each action item only takes like maybe a minute, maybe a few minutes. And when you look back, all those different decisions and habits that you've incorporated in your everyday routine has led you to be where you are today.
Totally.
And I think there's a lot to be said that like it's not a lot of heavy lifting. It's little things that I hope people can take away from this conversation of like, oh, I want to get some of that protein powder. Like, oh, I want to get like a 5-minute journal. And so
I think that's so, it's like when I connect to my deeper why with Cosmo and with what I do and just in the world again, I think what drew me to women's magazines in the first place was the personal service. Was like, I remember the diagram of how to draw your bronzer on in a 3, I remember like all of these little tips. I remember little tips about how to make your place look really clean in 5 minutes that are like so helpful. Like for example, this real simple article, I think about this all the time because it was so tangibly helpful in this tiny way, which was if you are having company over and you have 5 minutes to clean, the 3 high impact things that you can do are to Windex your faucets because those are very high touch. People like actually touch those and you never think about like the water spots. Just literally do it once and it looks like you've cleaned your whole apartment. It's weird how well that works. Do that, take out the trash so that they're putting something in an empty trash can and replace your hand towel and it'll seem like you cleaned your whole place. I swear, like
wow.
So that was kind of in my head when I wanted to go into magazines was how can I bring this personal service, whether it's in travel and you only have however much vacation time and limited budget and you want to make the most of it. So there's such service to that kind of journalism. I was really motivated by that. So then last year I took a step back and I really thought, okay, what is it about service journalism that motivates me so much? And I thought about it through the lens of like, what would I do for free? And part of that is I would give people advice. I would love just like telling people what to do, and then I thought deeper about that. Why do I like that so much? Why do I like sharing things I've learned, sharing these teeny little tips? And it's because to get like, this is so aligned with your mission too, is that I really believe that the world can be a better place if each one of us can just like have our day go a little bit better. Like the kind of ripple effects of that globally, if I can give somebody one tip that changes their life like 1% for the better, that's crazy. When you put that on a global scale where maybe that person is then able to show up differently for their kids or for their job. And I think for so long I heard this advice of like, if you're motivated by service, you'll never work a day in your life. And I was like, I don't want to work in a soup kitchen. I want to work at a glossy magazine. So that advice isn't for me. And now I've come to understand how my service and my place in this world may be equipping people with tools, the people who may, make a life-saving vaccine, the people who may do other kinds of really hard work that I can't even imagine, but I can help them show up a little bit better or parent a little bit better so that their kid then grows up as a more self-actualized adult. And like, I do think that the global impacts of that are so important.
And there's a lot of times when people will respond and be like, well, I'm not saving the world, I'm not a doctor. And that resonates with me, similar to what you're saying, is that you don't have to be working in a soup kitchen or being a doctor. Like, I think if you can understand your superpower, which is the same thing of thinking about what would I be willing to do for free. It's like that same
it's
exercise.
Your zone of genius.
Yes, it's like what do I love to do, and like what am I good at? If everyone leaned into what they're really good at and passionate about, doesn't mean you have to put yourself in the box of being a doctor or working in a certain place to provide a direct result. By leading into that, you're creative. Like I think you're uniquely contributing to this world in a much more impactful way because you're serving purpose by yourself, but also giving that to others. And I love how you think
and
that.
And it energizes you. You know, I found that there are kinds of work that I can do that drain me, and there are kinds that energize me, and I will work harder than anybody else at because they're in my zone of genius, and it's fun for me. And I have amazing coworkers. My incredible coworker, Alexandra, she and I are like two halves of the same brain, we always say, because the stuff that drains me energizes her and vice versa.
Wow.
And it's been so cool to see there are, you know, a person for every path, and to see how well you can work together on that. And I had this amazing moment earlier this week. It's been like just a tough week with all kinds of different things, and like I've really been relying on my mindset tricks, but there have been days where I don't feel like that happy, positive person, you know, and I've needed to, you know, I've like known that I have this toolkit to pull myself out of it. But anyway, earlier this week, I had a couple of moments that on like a really down day that really lifted me up and made me feel like, oh my God, I'm doing something, this is all worth it. And one of my best friends, Claire, we were college roommates. Our college roommates all text each other in this group text all the time. She lives in Detroit. And she was on a work flight back, trying to get home to her kids, flying back from Vegas. And she texted the group. And again, I've like had this long kind of awful day. And she texted our group that she was sitting on the tarmac for 2 hours, but it was okay because she was using some of my mindset hacks to make the most of that time and space and not be upset about it, and to kind of accept where she was in the moment. I had shared this tip with her that because last time I went to see her, I also got stuck on the tarmac for 2 hours. So I had shared this tip that, you know, most of the time when we're upset, we're not upset about the thing that's actually happening in that moment. We're upset about the difference between what we hoped it would be and what it is. So whether it's that you're sitting on the plane when you should have been there, it's not that bad you're sitting on the plane. You're just upset because you should have been there. Or it could be, you know, maybe in business, your business isn't at X goal that you set for yourself, but actually this thing is pretty good too. Yeah, it's like that difference that makes you upset. So she texted me that she had used that mindset trick and she was in such a better mood. And I was like, wow, now I'm in a great mood.
I love that. And so
it
was more
like,
of her realizing.
Yeah,
she's like, I was supposed to be home,
Yeah.
but it's not that I'm mad about being there. Just my reality
Yeah.
is different than my expectations.
Yeah, your mindset can shift everything. And then it's like, okay, how can I use this time to go through my camera roll or like text my
Send
friends?
voice notes.
Yeah, send voice notes. Use it as my me time or whatever. So that just really lifted me up. And I think when we talk about confidence, so much of confidence for me these days comes from knowing that I can be of service to others in those ways, you know? And like, even if I've really just kind of embraced this, like, you know, in Mean Girls, in the original Mean Girls, the girl who like bakes the cake full of sunshine. She's like, I want to bake a cake full of sunshine and rainbows and all be friends. I've embraced that I'm just that person. I'm going to be the smiley person. I'm going to be positive. And I feel good about that because I do see the ripple effects of how it's helping people when I show up in the world that way. And so
and
that
mechanisms like, when you're not showing up that day.
And so then if anybody makes fun of me for that, not that they really have, but if they did, I'd be like, whatever, I'm helping people.
Yeah, you're helping people. I love that. And so just shifting gears to like sort of the end of the interview is like, let's talk beauty, because as an editor, you are, I still remember bringing like loads of Baya. I'm like, what do you think? Say more. And so what do you look for? Like, what are some of your favorite products that you're incorporating in your everyday life? Are there any hacks that you use when it comes to beauty? Or like, have you discovered most of them through being gifted as an editor? Or how are you like discovering your favorite beauty?
Yeah, that's
products?
a great question. I feel so lucky that through work I do get to try a lot of things out. I'm definitely I kind of stick to a lot of my tried and trues. I spend way too much money at Sephora considering that I could like get
at least there's a sale going on.
Exactly. I love all of your products. I like genuinely do. I'm always like giving them to people, restocking on them. But I think the wipes are my favorite just because I really don't think there's anything else out there quite like it, where when I go out, like truly I don't go out for a night without one, because I'm just like, there's always that moment when you're out at night and you're like, oh my God, I do kind of smell, or oh my God, like, you know, whenever like we love to dance, like listen, when we're like out dancing somewhere, like you need a little something, or just if you're, honestly, sometimes I need it as like a hand wipe or something, but it actually does make me feel better to know that I have that in there. Sometimes I end up giving it away and I'm like, this is my friend Brittany's company.
And you're like, that's your service. And you love to like help others.
Yes, gift giving is
one
of my love languages.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait, I love that. And so you pack that, like say if you're going out, you're
Yes.
packing a Bayer refresh wipe.
Yes.
What are like 2 other things that you're packing?
That I'm packing. Oh, I've got small purses these days, so I feel like it's really tough to come by. I love a lip liner. I'm like
Favorite
addicted.
brand?
I'm addicted to some of the Maybelline lip products.
Okay.
Their Plump Gloss is so good. The one with the chili oil, you just have to be like with the chili pepper on it. Just be careful about kissing, because it's like it's intense. It's a little spicy. That for sure. And then always a little concealer. I'm not even picky about which one it is, but I just need a little, because like if you blow your nose or if like something under your eye, I'm like, I need a concealer.
Brightens you up.
Yes.
It just like gets rid of redness. You're looking great for photos. You feel good. I love those.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I love that. And I feel like you see so many products. I love hearing how you use our refresh wipes. So last question for you. So since there's rumors of a Devil's Wear Prada 2, I have to ask, is your like life like that in the office? Is it catty? Is it dramatic? Are everyone showing up in these fabulous outfits?
It's so interesting. I have had experiences in the past. I will say, like in one internship I had in particular, that was just very high stress, very high stakes in the fashion closet, and it was more of that vibe. Since then, I have had nothing like that, and I think there's many reasons for that. One is that I kind of have a no asshole policy, on my team, in my life. And I think that I really try to show up and bring that kind energy. I think if I had to really unpack what can be seen as workplace drama in different places, and this applies to friend drama too, or anything, it's when you, stick with me, because this is gonna get weird and woo-woo again, but it comes back to that, your experience versus reality. And what you think another person is thinking is actually in your head. So let's say you're like in a meeting with somebody. Here's a great example from where I've come a long way in my industries. I think early on, if I got left out of a meeting, my immediate response was to be like, why wasn't I in that meeting? I was deliberately left out. These people are cutting me out, blah, blah, blah. Whereas now, my first thought is like, I hate meetings. Thank God I don't have to do a meeting. Yeah, I can like do my other stuff. But more so, I always give people the most compassionate take and the benefit of the doubt, because that's usually the accurate take.
Yes.
There is probably nobody out there working really hard to make your life miserable. And if they are, that is so sad for them.
Yes.
If they are like, if they're dedicating all of their time and energy and attention to making you upset, then like I have compassion for that, because God, that's so sad. So true. I think now the advice that I give when people are dealing with drama is like, what's the most compassionate take here? And how can we get to that? But also just to know like what's actually true in this situation. Are they actually mad at you, or did you make that story up in your head? And if you react to the story that you made up in their head, suddenly they don't know your story, so they're like, you're being mean. Yeah. So I think the best way to kind of go through life is acting as if everybody loves you, is happy with you, and like wants to be your best friend.
Because what I find with the editors though is like you do have this like position of power, right? There's a lot of brands or people who want to befriend you and want FaceTime with you, that I could imagine it's very hard to like weave the difference between like a genuine connection versus someone who wants something out of you. And it's very easy, I could imagine, to be in your position and you don't have to be nice. Yeah. So to say that like that is your motto, I think that probably speaks volumes of why you've gotten to where you are, because a lot of times I might look at like an editor-in-chief or someone high up and you're like, wait, how did they get there? And they're not very nice. Yeah. And you're like, you know what? They got there despite not being nice.
That's so true. I really believe in the relationships that you make. And, I always call it my girl in the bathroom line energy that I try to bring anywhere I go. And again, to bring it back to events, I literally just, and again, there's research to this that I would have to look up. I'll send you the link. I'll follow up for show notes. But there's research to this where when you treat somebody as if they like you, they actually do like you more. And in turn, like everybody just starts liking each other. But I always think about that idea of the girl in the bathroom line where that's where you're like, yeah, break up with that guy. He doesn't deserve you. You know, you suddenly become instant besties. It's kind of this like funny trope. You're like a couple drinks in at the bar and you're standing in the bathroom line. You're like, oh my God, borrow my lip gloss, stranger.
Absolutely.
Like,
do you my
let's
brush?
exchange, let's DM each other. Let's stay best friends. And then you may never see them again. But I try to bring that girl in the bathroom line energy to everyday life, which I think is why we get along. We have that same kind of like energy and vibe. And it really, for one thing, it makes life a lot more fun to get to go through life feeling like everybody's your friend.
Yes.
But also when it comes to work, like those relationships, you just never know, where somebody may be in a few years. And I will say, like, the industry is small, the world is small. If you are a jerk,
people will know.
People will talk.
And that allows people who maybe aren't that nice to let their guards down and find compassion and be like, actually, I like you, versus I'm often in my head being like, they're scaring me, like they're this big deal, and I'm talking to them, and I usually mumble and don't make sentences. So I'm going to apply your advice, be a girl in the bathroom line, and just assume that they're my best friend. And I think that's a mindset shift that I needed to hear.
Yeah,
so
good. I love that.
And thank you so much. I could talk to you for hours. Yes. As we know, we do that many, many times.
Yes.
But I love just hearing how you've navigated your career with compassion and empathy and with this deeper mission of wanting to help people in your own unique way at Cosmo Magazine, and being able to like find ways to feel your best self, feel confident in environments that maybe you're not as used to or don't love being in, and having those mindset shifts with your toolbox of different books or regimens that you do to help lead a very fulfilling, happy life. So thank you for coming on here. I'm so excited to be featuring you, and can't wait to do this again.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes, part 2.
Yes, thank you.
I love it. Thanks. Oh, so fun.